intro. Shouldn't be too long until we get ourselves underway for round number 2 here at the Hungary ring. But yeah, no, if you are watching post-race, go ahead. This is just while we get the stream sorted, get everyone into the lobby, etc, etc. It shouldn't be too long, and then we'll get ourselves underway. But if you are watching live, welcome in. Do feel free to both like the stream and subscribe to the channel if you want to. It's not at all mandatory, but it would be nice if you could. Also, TikTok as well has been doing really well recently. It'd be great if we could get ourselves to 1,000 followers, only about 3 or 2 or so away over there. So Zach Sweeney commentary over on TikTok as well. That'd be greatly appreciated. But if you are watching live, come in, have a chat, and all that snazzy stuff while we wait for everyone to get themselves in to the lobby. I've got my drink. I've had my Mackies today, so I'm all raring to go for what is hopefully going to be an enthralling 18 minutes of qualifying and then a 35 lap race. Certainly cannot wait, and yeah, once we're ready to go, it should be a very, very good one indeed. Would be a very good idea if I got the script out. That would be a fantastic idea. Not the entire thing is scripted, just the one. But yeah, this whole race is like WWE. Like, everyone has signed up knowing what we're gonna do. So yeah, Ethan's gonna smack it on pole, and then go to win the race. So sorry to spoil it, everyone, but that's what's gonna happen. Ethan is gonna get it on pole and win the race. There'll be a massive, massive, massive crash from someone on precisely lap 24 at turn 5 as well, so watch out for that one. If either of these actually happen, I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket. I legally can't buy a lottery ticket, but I will buy a lottery ticket. Yeah, how long have I got? What is it now? August, so it's the 8th month, is it? Yeah, so I've got 8 months until I can buy a lottery ticket. But nonetheless, we are getting ourselves underway very, very shortly. I'll get started with the intro as soon as I can. Everyone's coming in now. That's absolutely brilliant. Welcome in, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all with me tonight for what is going to be a very, very good Hungarian Grand Prix. But nonetheless, hello and welcome everyone back to another round of the UFR Championship. With round 1 in the books, after a thrilling battle at Silverstone, we head to Budapest for round 2 and the Hungarian Grand Prix. A track that is dubbed Monaco without the walls, and that is more than correct. Drama is never too far away at the Hungary ring, and the 2021 race certainly proved that. With the championship going to be as close as ever, every round counts, and today is no exception. Strategy, consistency, and raw pace are all the ingredients for a perfect race here. But as we know, that's virtually impossible with everything that this sport throws at you. I'm always your commentator, Zach Sweeney, bringing you all the action this evening, and with quali soon underway, buckle up and prepare for round number 2 of the UFR Championship for the Hungarian Grand Prix. We're heading now into a short qualifying session, which I do, in fact, need to send a link into the chat, which would have been an absolutely fantastic idea to do. However, 18 minutes on the clock around a very, very tight and twisty circuit. As I said, Monaco without the walls, as it is so normally dubbed. And it should be a good one today. I mean, with Hungary, it's either an absolute belter or a bore fest. Hopefully, we lean more to the belter side because, yeah, I certainly want to get a good race out of the 17 drivers on the grid tonight. A very good turnout as well. 17 on the grid. That's pretty much a full grid. I think we were expected, in fact, to actually have a full grid, but it ended up not actually turning out that way, which is unfortunate. But we still got a decent chunk of people as our first set of drivers now head out. We've got Dizzy Lizard in the Aston Martin. He's going to be the one who's going to head the pack and actually get himself the nice bit of airtime for a little while he takes us round a lap of the Hungarian Grand Prix circuit. Daniel, no. Not at all, mate. There are some incredibly quick people. I mean, we've got Scott, SMC, IL Wayne 69 there. He's incredibly quick. Scott, Dizzy Lizard. There's loads of quick people on this grid, and I'll stick to commentary. I think it's probably my strongest suit. As Dizzy Lizard on his outlap, takes us around. And literally, look, it is Monaco without the walls. It's just grass instead. And even then, the grass isn't that far away from a wall. So it's so tight, so twisty. And if you're running a preset, you're going to be running the maximum downforce, maybe with a couple of adjustments to the setup. But if you're running a preset, hopefully everyone isn't. I'm actually running a half-decent setup. But you would go for the increased downforce, something around the region of 10, 9, something around that wings. So it's very good. Welcome in, Patterson. Best of luck for today's race. As we're getting a bit of queuing in Sector 3, you can see Dizzy Lizard is ahead of Brian and the Alfa Romeo there. But we're on board then with the Aston Martin as he heads us round his first lap of qualifying, running a little bit wide through the final corner. But Brian getting a lovely little bit of a slipstream down towards turn 1. Dizzy Lizard though looking just after the 100 ball, just before the start of the curb. You take a nice wide entrance in, goes a little bit wide. You can see that's going to really compromise his run through on his lap, and he's going to let Brian go through. So we're right on board with him in towards turn 2. Brake at the 50, chuck it in. You've got to remain so tight to that inside because it's such an off-camber corner. The track just dips away from you, and then flat through turn 3. Up the hill now to end off Sector 1 in the blind apex turn 4. You just got to chuck it in and hope that the car's going to stick. Invalidates, in fact, through turn 4. So we're getting a lot of bottles on this lap, it must be said. Who's the Alfa Romeo out on track? It is Lasse Lawson, who's coming towards turn 1 now. As I said, look for the start of that curve, braking just before it, down to 3rd gear. Take a nice latish apex, DRS open as you run down this little mini straight towards turn 2. An off-cambered corner, looking for that 50 board. Chuck it in early, stay tight. This Alfa Romeo is doing an incredible job of it. Let it run outside to the edge of the track. Don't do that. Clipping that curb on the inside. That could have very, very easily ended qualifying for the Alfa Romeo as he reverses himself into the track. Here lurking again. Thank you very much, Nathan. Pleasure to have you in. But a lot of bottles for their first laps in qualifying, it must be said. Is Mister on a lap in qualifying? I think he is. He's going pretty quickly, so we'll jump on board with him. Yet to actually go for a full lap guide through the mountainous curbs that is this chicane of turn 6 and 7. In towards 8, just got to chuck it in and hope the car grips. Again, a little bit of a dab on the brakes. Again, Dizzy Lizard, 29.6. Again, really not the best of lap times. He can definitely do better than that. But Mister through turn number 10 is purple to the middle sector. And now coming towards turn 11, gets it in, turned in pretty nicely. Ethan, a 16.5 at the moment. Not at all a bad time whatsoever. Through the penultimate corner, Mister. Now you just got to chuck the car in, stay tight to that pit wall, not actually hit it, and then let the car run out. DRS open on the run to the line. Been a decent time. It's a 16.1 for the Red Bull, who sets the benchmark pretty early on. But we'll go on board with Scott in the AlphaTauri. Again, a very quick driver from last week. Really proved himself, and he's now coming towards turn 2 now. I think I'm going to be expecting Scott and people like him to be aiming for the mid-15s at the very least, maybe dipping into the 14s, as Mad Nathan's a 15.4 already in this qualifying session. Mad Nathan, a very quick driver from last week as well. So it's going to be tough as Scott invalidates his first lap, in fact, but that looked good. So Mad Nathan in the McLaren, doing an incredible job, setting the pace early on those soft compound tyres as the Alfa Romeo of Miles sets in a 17.6 as Lewis, a 16.1, pretty much matches what Mister did in his Red Bull. Literally 13 hundredths of a second between the two, or 13 thousandths of a second between the two, I should say. And for context, that's around a tenth of a blink of an eye-ish. So you blink your eyes, just imagine a tenth of that time between second and third at this point in time. And yes, I looked it up, but a blink of an eye is around about a tenth of a second. And yeah, wow. There you go. Hi, my name is Rigby in the other McLaren. He's on the medium tyres at this point. So, big snap though through turn 10. Gets it all wrong, smacks into the barrier, and a huge crash in the early part of qualifying. That is his qualifying over. And an 18.6, that's really not going to get him anywhere special on this on such a competitive grid as well. He's going to be struggling to make up for that, which is a shame because track position is ever so important around here. It's so difficult to overtake. It can be done and you can have good racing, but you really struggle to get close and make up that time. You can catch up and you might be quicker, but once you get that wash of dirty air in your face and it's really then just pushing you back, you find the car to start understeering, you just can't close the gap, you find yourself dropping off a little bit. Once you're then out of that dirty air, you close up but can't get close enough, and it's so tricky. But Wayne is looking pretty good on this Mercedes in this lap as well. Purple to the middle sector through the penultimate corner now. Third gear, keep it tight, and then let it run out to the exit of the track. Bring it back to the left-hand side and swing it back in for the final corner. Fourth gear, maybe even fifth gear to get the traction. A little bit shaky on the exit, but across the line, it's fastest. It's a 15-0 for Wayne in that Mercedes, and that is already a very, very quick time. So once Scott can hook up a lap, I'm confident we're going to be in the 14s. But what a lap from Wayne at this stage in qualifying. Scott again invalidating his lap. That's a very easy thing to do, which is surprising for the for such a track like the Hungaroring. It's where you can cut, it's very easy to cut. You can't really cut turn 1 nor turn 2, 3. 4 is very easy to cut. You can either turn in too late because it's blind, you can't see it, so you have to get your reference points exactly right. As you see Paul does there, it's so pinpoint precise to actually get that corner correct, and even if you do turn in correctly, getting the throttle down too quickly can run you out wide a little bit. As you see, he's not committed turning in, just turn in once, had to back out of it and then turn in again, and as you saw, he just got a wash of understeer and then couldn't compete. But his teammate is now Nathan, rolling through the middle sector. Paul Kane moves out of the way nicely. Again, Paul was a very good contender. Swoosh, a 14.983 for the Alpine, who gets himself into provisional P1. But just look how close it is in the midfield at the front. It is fractions of a second, fractions of a fraction of a second, but between these guys, and this is just what you love to see. And it's one of the beauties of tracks like this, like the Hungaroring, Monaco, Singapore. Qualifying is everything, and all the drivers giving it absolutely everything. But the Alfa Romeo now of Lasse Lawson, 03, currently sits P15 without a lap time set, as is half of the grid in fact. 9 drivers, or around about 6 drivers actually in fact, yet to set a time. DRS Open though on the run to the line is going to be provisional fastest. It's a 14.853, just over a tenth quicker than Swoosh, and the Alfa Romeo looking very strong. Ethan as well, that second Aston Martin on a new wheel, on the Fanatec podium wheel I think, and that's such a big step up from what he's used to. But I've spoken to him, and he sounds it's so much better, it's so much cleaner with the force feedback delivery. It's more precise, and the pedals as well. Pedals, in fact, people will say, oh, get yourself a better steering wheel. Pedals are everything. You cannot be quick without a good set of pedals. And if you're on controller, I mean, yeah, it's the same other way. But on wheeled, you cannot have one of those rubbish 70 quid ones where it's just on or off with the pedals. You need to have that smooth inputs, the travel, the brakes especially, that are really going to help. So Ethan getting himself this new wheel is really going to help him, and it's just going to make it so much more enjoyable as well. And that's the thing with sim racing. It's not always going to be the real thing, but it can just be so enjoyable, and it's not as much as actually going and getting a real car. But yeah, Patterson now starting his lap, goes a little bit, actually no, I say that, he's very much hooked up turn 1 very, very well in the Aston Martin. Now coming towards turn 2, you want to use that curb going in. It may unsettle the car a little bit, but if you can keep it under control, it really does work. Now Patterson completely flat through turn 3, at least in qualifying spec. Then you head up the hill as he goes 26.6 to the middle, to the first sector. That's not bad at all. Bit of debris as a McLaren has spun. That might be Mad Nathan, or Ethan goes for a spin through turn 5. That is a big spin, and very easy to do on the throttle. Makes a big mistake, lets everyone through very nicely as he cuts across the chicane to let everyone through. So nice of that. Nice to see him do that. Mad Nathan was the McLaren that in fact spun. On board with Scott then, the AlphaTauri, someone we expect to definitely be up there. Goes purple to the first sector now with 7 minutes left to go. Gets over that curb though. You can just see the car, even the camera is shaking, really struggling to get the power down because it's just so bumpy over these curbs here at the Hungaroring. Chucking it through very wide, nearly hitting the wall, but you can get away with it, and that's the thing. Patterson very marginally moving out of the way. You could not fit a sheet of paper between those two cars. If we took a replay at that, it would be pixels between the two. But Scott still purple to the middle sector. And again now through the final corner, let's see what he can do. DRS Open, where is he going to put it in retrospect to everyone else across the line? A 14.576. So around about 3 or so tenths quicker than the Alfa Romeo in P2, and that's exactly what we expect from Scott, who's doing an incredible job in the AlphaTauri, flying it very well. His teammate, in fact, he doesn't have a teammate. He's one of the very few on the... Actually, no, he does. He's got Ethan in the other AlphaTauri, currently P12. So, yeah. let's see what the other AlphaTauri can do. But Scott doing an incredible job at the front of the field. But yeah, talking through what Scott did through the through 10-10. It's you can get away with it. It's weird. You drive yourself off the track and keep yourself off the track and then rejoin because the game thinks that you've taken the escape road or something, or you've slowed down. So if you just keep it off the track, it's actually both quicker and you're less likely to get a penalty than if you just marginally went over the curb. Very, very weird. But we'll go on board with the other AlphaTauri or just talk through his lap. Again, he wants to live up to the expectations that Scott is setting, currently 2/10 quicker than the Alfa Romeo in P2, who went a little bit quicker on his second lap, around about half a tenth or so quicker. Actually, about just over a tenth, I believe. Quicker was on a 14.8, wasn't he? So yeah, just over a tenth quicker, and those margins are going to be very, very fine towards the end of quali. You can see practically nothing between the top four, or between each position. I mean, it's 5/10 between the top four, which again isn't bad. That's still really close. If you blink your eyes 5 times, that's how long it is between the two. Just no pace. Yeah, that happens. Oh, that's a big spin and a big crash for the AlphaTauri. And as I was saying, was we were on board with the Scott. That's so easy to do, to lose the traction on the exit of the chicane going into turn 8. You go over that curb, the car's just unstable. You can't put the foot down, and you just find yourself sliding, and you go straight into the wall, as we've seen here from the AlphaTauri, which is a shame. Because that looked to be a decent lap, but we'll go on board with the Lewis again. Currently P11 on the softs. Most of the grid, in fact, opting for this soft compound tyre. As he goes purple, in fact, to the middle sector. How accurate that is, I'm not sure, but he's going to need around about 1.6 seconds, I believe, on his previous best time to find himself improving and get himself up to the front of the grid. Let's see what he can do now through the final corner. And getting the power down pretty efficiently. DRS open, used up all his deployment across the line. It's P7, so a decent improvement. 6/10, just not quite enough to find himself up to where to Scott is. But I think Scott and the top 3 especially are just setting a different standard in this league. They're just, yeah, Swoosh we saw last week, Wayne we saw last week, and Paul K, in fact, we saw last week doing really well if it wasn't for bad laps. Same with Matt Nathan. So all of them have the potential to do very well. It's just whether a case of whether they can do it or not. As he goes over the grass there, and himself involved in getting his tyres a little bit dirty. Now up the hill, turn 4 again. You can see you want to use the curves to open up the corner, but you don't want to use that much because the car bottoms out. The floor touches the curb as opposed to the actual tyres. And because these cars run so low, if you elevate the floor, you in fact actually elevate the tyres. So it's more like a skateboard grinding on something as opposed to the tyres actually touching the floor. And then when you do that, you can't get that flick that you need into a corner like turn 4. So man Nathan going to learn from that, hopefully, and not make the same mistake on his next lap. With now 3 minutes left to qualify and left to go. Now Nathan currently P6. Again, a driver you would expect to do pretty well. After the pace showing last week, currently P6, still a very decent position. And now P7 is that Nathan in the Ferrari goes even quicker. Let's see what the McLaren can do though. It's the Red Bull, I believe, of Mr. actually pulling out of the pit lane as well. Probably for one of his final laps of qualifying in general, not full qualifying session, so just qualifying. Q1, Q1, 3 all in one. Chucking it through. Very tidy turn 1 and 2. Maybe a little bit too much curb in turn 1, but turn 2 definitely looking pretty good. Goes over that curb. That's very easy to make the mistake of what I think it was Rigby earlier doing. In fact, goes over went over the curb, but managed to lose enough time for the game to not invalidate his lap there, which is probably crucial. And towards turn 6 and 7, not as committed as he could be, as he goes very much sideways over the curb. And again, the traction zone of turn 7 really posing a massive issue for a lot of people today, and that is to be expected. Swoosh rider though, at the moment, just over 3/10 off pole position, but that can be made up very quickly around here if you just give it a little bit more through the corners. Now through the final corner and on to start his probably his provisional lap. Yeah, it's a shame, but it's a very easy mistake to do. The Alpine then, a swoosh rider coming towards turn 1, looking for that 100 board. Down the gears as quick as you can. Third gear, maybe even second gear. Take a late apex, keep the car in a straight line. Don't run it out too wide. And then open up the DRS down towards turn 2, blitzing your way towards the 50-meter board where you slam on the anchors. Keep it tight because the off-camber corner just wants to spit the car out through turn 3, completely flat in qualifying spec. Try not to use too much curb. Up the hill now towards turn 4, and that's a 10th and a half as you flick it in 7th gear. Wayne Scott going even quicker now, a 14.0. as he found 5 tenths on his lap. So this needs to be an absolutely blitzing lap from Swoosh if he wants any chance of pole position through turn 6 and 7, clipping very nice apexes now towards turn 8, getting a little bit of dirty air from the car in front, flicking it through, flick it left, flick it right, and then flat through the left as you set yourself up for the fast right where you really have to give it everything. Down a gear, keeps it on the track nicely. A shot has retired from the session, purple to the middle sector and 4 tenths up on his time as Swoosh. This is looking pretty good as Lasse just misses out on pole position, a 14.101. Where can Swoosh put himself in relative to them? Now through the penultimate corner and then the final corner. Let's see how much time he can gain. He's going to have a little bit of a tow now towards the line. DRS open. Is it going to be pole position for him across the line? It's a 14.4. A very valiant effort from the Alpine, but just not enough to match Lasse and Scott in P1 and 2 as Nathan is not going to be getting another lap in, unfortunately. Not enough time. Wayne as well, he's invalidated. Mad Nathan definitely could. Don't think he is. Lewis though on a lap. Previously went a little bit quicker. Yeah, Nathan, a very good result. You're not really that far off a lot of people, so if you could find out a bit more time, you'd definitely be up there. And a second row start provisionally is looking pretty good. The two Aston Martins in P11 and 12, probably the best positions of the midfield to get yourself that free tyre choice and the optimal strategy. Mars retiring from the session as well. Dizzy Lizard, let's see, he's 5 tenths down to the middle sector, not going to be improving much on his lap. With Brian, 2.5 tenths up to the first sector. Let's see what he can do now, nearly 6 tenths up to the middle sector. This is going to be a low 15 and may even propel him all the way up into the front row from 10th if he can find and keep this final sector clean. Red Bull looking pretty strong. He can get himself ahead of his teammates, so provided that he actually gets himself through this lap and keeps the traction down, this has been a pretty good lap from the Red Bull across the line. Where's he going to put him? It's P4 and the second row marginally knocking Nathan down, literally less than, what is that now, 58 thousandths of a second between the two. Very, very marginal stuff. But Nathan, still an incredible result from you, and a lot of people retiring from the session at the end of it. But that is qualifying over. A very, very close qualifying session. Pole decided by around about a 10th of a second, and even then third and fourth are not that far back if you consider everything and how tough this circuit is. So I think we're in for a really good fight in this race. I think it's going to be close. There's going to be a dash to turn 1. It's going to be very, very close. And strategy, consistency is the main thing. This is qualifying around a very difficult circuit. 35 laps is going to be even more difficult. It's going to be a race of attrition, consistency, strategy, awareness, racecraft, everything bundled together. This really is a testament to separate the good drivers from the great. And if you can win at Hungary, you pretty much set for most tracks. It's very different to a lot of tracks, but with qualifying over then, it is Wayne, it is Scott, I do apologise, that takes pole position, 3/100ths of a second between the front row. A 1:14.0 for Scott, a 1:14.1 for Lasse, and Swoosh in P3 with Brian joining him on the front row. Nathan Hotspurs in P5 with Wayne, P6, Paul P7 with Mister in P8. Mad Nathan and Lewis round off the top 10 in P9 and 10 respectively. Dizzy Lizard in P11, Patterson P12, Ethan after a crash coming off of turn 7 starts P13, Kizagiza P14, Mars P15, Rigby P16 with Torsif rounding off the grid with no time set and in P17. So a very close qualifying session, and as I said, it's going to be a very, very close race. I didn't even realise 3/100ths of a second between pole. That is literally a third of a blink of an eye, and that's just it is so decisive. They were virtually identical laps, but they weren't identical. They just are so close that to the normal eye, it is identical. That's how fine margins it is in both Formula 1 and sim racing and in UFR. But yeah, a very good result from a lot of drivers on the grid. I'm sure a lot of people are really chuffed with that. But as I said, it's 1 lap in qualifying, it's 35 laps in the race. And it's going to be a very, very tough ask for a lot of people. Hopefully we people keep it consistent and clean, and we don't have many dramas like we did in the 2021 real life Grand Prix. And hopefully we get a few more than just 12 finishes or 30. What was it? 13 finishes, 12 finishes, 40. I don't know, something like that by the end of the race. But we'll see then. As we are soon to go green for the formation lap. It's headed by the AlphaTauri, the 2 Alphas in fact on the front row, AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo. As he leads us round, in fact he's underfueled. All the front row have both underfueled, so they're predicting a safety car. They're going for a lighter car, which means a lighter chassis, which means a more agile car. It can turn in a lot better in these early stages of the race, and it's going to help them a lot. And if there's a safety car, they can save that fuel. And even on this formation lap, you can see Scott has just saved up a little bit of fuel, got himself back into the white positive range, with a couple of people, in fact, getting themselves disqualified from this session. Everyone inside the top 10 on the soft compound tyre, of course. They have to start on those tyres, as they were the tyres they set their fastest lap in qualifying on, with a predicted pit stop strategy of either a softer hard or a soft medium for those inside the top 10. Going to be leaning more towards the 1 stop because track position is very important. But for those outside the top 10, it's going to be a medium. In fact, Rigby on the softs as well, looking for a quick start to get himself up the grid and see where he can put that McLaren, maybe avoid some lap 1 carnage, whatever it might be, because it's never ever too far away in Hungary. 35 laps ahead of us then for round number 2 of what is going to be an incredibly exciting championship, and we're only 1 round in now, starting our second. It's a long season ahead. Every round counts. By the time you get to the second last race of the season, you're going to be looking back and thanking yourself that you put the effort in early, so you can have that advantage or be that little bit closer going into the final round. Every point counts in the championship, and those that are chasing the crown are going to know that. Those Scott, Lasse, Swoosh, Nathan, Mad Nathan, they need to maximise every point. Even if it's an off day, it's maximising the points on a day where you might not be the quickest, and that is what defines a good or a great driver. You might not be the quickest, but can you salvage something? And then on your good days, it's about maximising and being the best that you can be. However, with the cars now lined up on the grid, we get ourselves ready for our dash towards turn 1 and the start of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Here for round number 2, the 5 red lights soon to illuminate your screen. We go then, the car's revving up, 4 lights, 5 red lights for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Round 2 of UFR is underway and racing, and what a start from the man in P2 as we get a couple of jump starts further down the grid. I think Wayne has managed to jump him because of the jump start. The Alfa Romeo now running side by side towards turn 1. The AlphaTauri on the outside trying his best to get it done, but Lasse takes the lead, and the AlphaTauri of Scott is going to have to settle into second. So what a start from the Alfa Romeo, as we've got a Red Bull as that Brying up into 3rd place already. Very good start. Swoosh down to 4th as we've got a bit of a timing error, unfortunately, but the Alpine of Swoosh Rider looking to put the pressure on. A VSC has been brought out, and that basically presses pause on the race. So apologies for the timing glitch again. It's just a shame with everything going on that we can't get that, with Lewis picking himself up a 5-second penalty for a severe collision with Nathan. Gets himself ahead of him, in fact, under the VSC, but basically the VSC pressing pause on this race effectively because of debris or what have you. So all drivers having to slow down and adhere to the 40% race speed delta. And then when the debris is clear, we can get ourselves back on the green flag racing. And they're going to be pushing flat out. They've reset their batteries, they've saved some fuel. They're going to be looking to be raring to go. Brian onto the podium after a very, very decent start. We go back on the green flag racing. A very poor restart from the Red Bull. The McLaren of Man Nathan going to get swamped by Mr. Maybe even around the outside. He does so, in fact. A great restart from Mr. who has to then put himself into the pit lane following a jump start, which is unfortunate. Lasse though leads lap 1. This is the Alpine now looking to get past the Red Bull, who squeezes him very, very close to the wall, but the Alpine fills the space. It's going to be the inside for turn 1. The Red Bull on the outside breaks later around the outside. So close to contact between the two. The Alpine sticking it up the inside now. It's going to be a drag race towards turn 2. The Red Bull's going to have the inside. The Alpine on the right hand side. Who can break later? It's going to be the Alpine. He's going to try it as best he can around the outside, but the Red Bull's going to edge himself ahead and stay ahead and keep that P3 but Swoosh is putting the pressure on very, very well. Just making sure Brian knows he's there. Gets a bit of a snap through turn 4. That's not going to help his advance whatsoever. That's Lewis out of this race. Bounced off the wall through turn 4. And is now calling an end to his Hungarian Grand Prix very prematurely. That's a spin. That's Miles gone for a spin off of turn 5. We get another VSC because of the debris on track. But what a start from Patterson. From 12th on the grid, ahead of his teammate and up into P6. So a great start from the Alfa Romeo. He's done an incredible job already in this race. Just keeping himself out of harm's way and doing what he needs to. But the gap in the front has widened quite a bit. Lasse has definitely got some speed in his belt. That's Mad Nathan as well out of this race through turn 4. He's spun under the VSC and is now out of this race. There's going to be 2 DNFs in a row for Mad Nathan. So for a guy who's got so much speed, that's such a shame to see him out already on lap 2. And that's just now 2 retirements to this race. There's a full-blown safety car has now been brought out. Patterson stays out. So too does pretty much everyone of the top 6. Ethan though comes in. Dizzy Lizard stays out. Keezer stays out. Wayne comes in maybe for some damage repair. But a safety car already being brought out. A full safety car this time, not just the VSC. So the marshals of course clearly seen that there's too much debris to be cleared up. The 2 cars and the debris of those that have spun. So they've brought out the full course safety car and are going to be looking to get that cleared up very quickly hopefully and bring a restart to this race, because it's been pretty enthralling recently. I mean, a lot of the guys inside the top 10 have already spun and had their own issues, which has invited a lot of the medium runners already into the top 10 with only the top 4 of those who started in the top 4 to actually remain inside the top 4. So it's been an interesting one. The timing glitch at the start really hindered that. Lasse managed to get through with Ethan a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. That'll be him not adhering to the decreased speed delta you have under the safety car. Basically in the top right when you're driving you have a timer and you have to keep it in the green, as the 2 leaders in fact are coming in. With Scott following him in. Is Brian going to stay out? Brian stays out to take the effective race lead. So what size are these guys going on? Are they committing to a 2-stop? They could go mediums to mediums now because they've changed compounds. Of course you have to change compounds in the race at some point. The Ferrari as well. Ferrari guys are coming out. That's Nathan coming in, strapping on the medium compound tyre, the yellow walled mediums, going on to both effective race leaders. Dizzy Lizard going to settle in front of both of them. Patterson up to 3rd under this safety car, and this alternate strategy could really work. If he can go on to the same strategy as Scott or Lasse, who now have a car in between them, that could really work well in those who started on the mediums' favour. Of course Scott and Lasse are going to be very quick. 2 of the quickest guys on the grid in fact, so yeah, while they all bundle themselves up behind the safety car, it's going to be an interesting one when we get back under racing. 2 people who started on the softs still remain on the softs. Everyone else has changed tyres at least 1 point. So Brian and Swoosh looking to get a good restart and carry on their normal strategy. They're not changing. They're not using this time under safety car for a pre-pit stop. They're just going to chill. They're going to do their own thing. And they're going to stick to their gut feeling and not come in. So it's going to be a strategy battle between everyone. Maybe not the closest on-track battles, but definitely a strategy one. But it's going to be crucial for Scott to win this race. He needs to get through on that Mercedes as quickly as possible as we round off sector 2 under the safety car. So we've got at least 1 more lap under the full safety car. So it shouldn't be too long at all. Still though, going to be a very interesting race. We're only on lap 4 of 35 and we've already had so much drama and everything. So yeah, if you are enjoying, do make sure to leave a like on the stream. Come and have a chat as well if you are watching. No likes on the stream. Am I really doing that bad of a job, guys? But no, all jokes aside, come and have a chat while we're under the safety car, as we are all bunched up. So it should be in this lap, but get your thoughts in now. Your predictions, whatever it might be, get them in. and we can have a bit of a chat while we negotiate 15 corners, or now 14 corners as we come in towards turn 2. Now 13 because we're on the exit of turn 2. Turbo whistle of the Red Bull. We really got the. I'm not going to try and impersonate the turbo, but it's very nice as he lifted off. Just as it pumps through the. I think it's the air pump or something like that. But yeah, no, Brian doing a great job. Kept himself out of trouble, got himself up into P1 under the safety car. Whether his strategy is going to be the better option remains to be told. Same with Swoosh, but we'll see. Anything can happen, as has already been proven. We're already on lap 5. We've only had about 1 or 2 laps of actual green flag racing. The rest have either been taken up by full course yellows or this full safety car. So an interesting one to say the least, but we should be back underway at the start of this next lap. Lap number 6. Brian will lead, Swoosh in second, Patterson and the other Aston Martin of Dizzy in P3 and 4, both doing an incredible job and could in fact find themselves doing very well in this race. Safety car in this lap though, so Brian takes control of the field. You can see weaving around, getting some temperature into the tyres ahead of the restart. He controls the pack, he controls the pace, and he decides when to punch it as soon as that safety car comes into the pit lane. Backing up the field, making sure everyone abides to his speed limit, weaving around, making sure that those tyres are in pristine condition, and it's between now and the timing line where he can punch it, and he's punched it. We're back under green flag racing, and we're underway for the second stage of this race. The Alpine's got an incredible restart, Swoosh tucked up right behind him, Brian having to defend now towards turn 1, the Alpine looking to the left hand side, but Brian defends very, very well. Dizzy Lizard looking to get past his teammate, but side by side, Brian sticks it on the outside, and Swoosh is going to run side by side with him now towards turn number 2. The Red Bull on the inside, the Alpine on the outside. These two going side by side again. He's going to go for the switcheroo, but the Red Bull covers it off. Now Patterson looking to get involved on his medium compound tyres. Should in theory be slower as Giza is going very much backwards with what's happened. Scott's gone round. Scott is back down in P13. He's now putting the pressure on for P12, but something's happened to Scott and he's now finds himself towards the back of the grid. So now Lasse has got a lot of pressure alleviated off his shoulders for the remainder of this race, but it's very close. Brian leading the way. Swoosh trying to put that pressure on. Yellow flags to the middle sector. Miles has gone round at turn 5 again with Paul K getting himself round and ahead of Wayne. But only for a split second, with Wayne parking on the inside. The Ferrari trying has caused a bit of a queue now as they still run side by side. Paul getting ahead. Wayne's teammate Giza looking to get through. Maybe some damage on that Mercedes. Mr. looking to go around the outside. Yeah, he's just going backwards now. Scott looking to get past, or maybe both of them, as we now come towards turn 11. Paul has retired from the session. He's had a bit of an awkward moment. He's just retired on track, and that's really hindering a lot of drivers as Reapy goes sideways backwards into the penultimate corner, smacks his rear wing, looking the rears a little bit. So a lot of things are kicking off on this opening restart lap. There's still yellow flags through sector 3 and presumably a lot of debris, but that was not the wisest decision from Paul, it must be said. Lasse now looking to get past Dizzy, looks to the right hand side, and it's going to be the outside for turn 2. How late can he brake? The Aston Martin brakes too late, and the Alfa Romeo going underneath and pulling off a nice switcheroo. Going to be side by side now through turn 3, still giving each other the room. The Aston Martin nearly going off the track and stays ahead in P4, really backing up Lasse, who in theory is the quicker car but can't find a way through with Dizzy Lizard just getting the better run. And what's going to be crucial is how well Dizzy can stay in the DRS of his teammate, as we have got yellow flag that's tore off at turn 4. A lot of bottle lids open in this race, and we're only a fifth of the way through the race, only 20% through, with Scott already getting himself up into P8, no, maybe even P9, as we've got a retirement. Patterson's round, oh no, another safety car only 2 laps after. Patterson going round. What's happened here? As he locked the rears, spun the car, and is now in the wall, buried his tyre, and that's another full course safety car, with Scott getting a little bit tangled up in the midfield as well. So surely Brian pits. Yeah, Brian now pitting under the safety car. Giza getting himself a drive-through penalty. Dizzy Lizard stays out. Lasse is going to stay out. Nathan stays out. So Brian's going to lose out because of this, but he's going to be on the optimal strategy, going for the medium tyre. So swapping on for the strategy that he probably should have done under the original safety car, with a lot of cars now getting his way past. Unfortunate for Patterson though, who was driving a very good race, very high up, but just found himself spinning round, unfortunately. I'm not quite sure what happened. We were on board with Scott, who was who had something going on with him. I'm not sure. He got a little bit swamped and lost 2 positions because of it, and just didn't get the start he wanted off the original restart, and that is a shame. He could have been challenging, maybe his contact with Giza or something happened. But still in P6 with no damage at all, so at least that's a positive. At least he's now still in this race, which the safety car shouldn't be too long out because we've got a lot of drivers already bunched up. So I'm not expecting the safety car to be out for too long. Probably maybe a lap or 2. But you can see we've already got the majority of the grid with only Ethan and Wayne left to line up behind. So yeah, it shouldn't be too long whatsoever. So go get a cup of tea, go to the toilet, whatever you need under this safety car. So yeah, we have a little bit of a pause. So still only a couple of laps of green flag racing under our belts. But nonetheless, still a couple of very enthralling green flag racing laps. We've had Dizzy and Lasse going side by side. We've had the Alpine of Swoosh going side by side with Brian. That's been very interesting. Swoosh going for a different strategy to Brian. He's pitting for the hard compound tyres as opposed to the medium. So he's going for his original strategy, which was pit around lap 7-8 time, go on to the hards and go to the end. So this is very interesting for Swoosh. He's maybe a strategy mastermind, maybe, we don't know. A very different strategy, one very similar to Mister. So only 2 drivers on the grid actually opting for this different strategy, which is going to be very, very interesting to say the very least. So the Alpine, who already looked quick, now going for a very different strategy. So we'll have to see where he ends up in the rest of this race. Maybe if he goes longer and a late safety car comes out, who knows, we could find himself on fresh softs at the end of the race on light fuel and in the lead because he's got that free pit stop. We don't know what can happen. That's the thing with the Hungaroring. It's either a banger or a sleeper, and at the moment it's eyeing itself up to be a pretty good race. We've had good racing throughout, but still a long way to go. Not even a third of the way through just yet, around about a quarter of the way through, lap 9 of 35. With Torres retired on the safety car, Ethan will go on board with him as he rides through, now up the hill towards turn 4. Has he just dropped it under safety car? Yep, he very much has. He just put it in the wall coming off of turn 4, which is a shame. And that's another driver out, our 5th retirement of the day, unfortunately. Yeah, it's a shame, Patterson. But Ethan's not complaining. I mean, Ethan Thomas, I should say, is up into P12. Torsif, you're going slow under the safety car, and I guess it must be difficult to manage. But safety car in this lap, we go for another restart. This time, Dizzy Lizard, the other Aston Martin, trying to do Ethan proud at the front of the grid. He's going to have control of the field. He's going to be on those medium compound tyres, weaving around. You can see trying to get some temperature into those the harder compound tyre, not the hard compound tyre, but the harder, step harder to the soft, so they're going to be a little bit harder to warm up. So he has to see weaving around, put the strain in the front tyres, trying to get some temperature. The safety car is in. It's now to the full discretion of the Aston Martin to punch it, and he has indeed punched it as we go back under green flag racing. He's caught Lasse off guard. In fact, 8 tenths now is the gap as we go green once again. The restart of the Hungarian Grand Prix, a good restart from Scott, who's going to look to get past Mister down towards turn 1 in the AlphaTauri. The Red Bull might have him to defend. He does defend, pulls to the inside, comes back to the outside. The AlphaTauri can't quite find a way through. Going to go for the switcheroo though, get the power down. What an undercut from the AlphaTauri, now running side by side towards turn number 2. This is so crucial for Scott, who's going to try it around the outside, sails past the Red Bull, trying to keep it on the inside, but the AlphaTauri edges his way ahead and is now putting the pressure on Giza, who is slow off turn 3. He's now going to be on the right hand side, coming up the hill towards turn 4, and is ahead and puts the foot in around the outside. Very, very ballsy stuff to get himself ahead. Either one of those two was going to have to back out, otherwise it would have ended in utter calamity. But a crucial couple of moves for Scott in this race, for the rest of this race. Mister getting himself through, as well as Kiza, again, very stuck. That's Miles again going round in this first sector. But Lasse putting that pressure on Dizzy, who is going to be on those older medium tyres. So Lasse, with his raw qualifying pace, the raw pace we've seen, the consistency he's shown, should be quicker. But Dizzy Lizard is not hesitant to defend. Goes a little bit wide through the penultimate corner, does the Aston Martin. But the Alfa Romeo now getting all over the rear end. Needs a good run off the final corner to have any chance of an attack towards turn 1. Activating the ERS. Lasse Lawrence sets the fastest lap and is now going to look to put the pressure on. Another safety car in this race. Another crash. That's Wayne and now out of this race, as a lot of people have parked under the safety car. Dizzy Lizard having to go very slow to adhere to the Delta. Lasse nearly into the back of him. But another safety car. 3 laps. 3 safety cars, sorry, we've had now, totaling to around about 6 laps, and a couple of them have been accounted for by VSCs as well. With now 3 drivers into the pit lane. Will Dizzy Lizard, in fact, think to come in? Maybe. It hits his time to go for a medium stop. Go medium, soft, or use the safety car to preserve those mediums, go very long into the race, and then go for the softs. Who knows what he's thinking? I'm guessing, I mean, with the way it's going, softs can probably go about the whole race distance under the safety car if we keep it up with the amount of safety cars that we've got. So going to be an interesting one, very, very interesting. But it's a shame that the racing has been the momentum of the racing has been killed by these safety cars. A lot of people putting it into the wall, which is understandable. It's Hungary. It's a very difficult track to be consistent around, and getting to the end of the race is definitely going to be an achievement in of itself. Not quite to the achievement of say completing a 6-hour race, as the Aston Martin, as I said, is going to come into the pit lane and take this free pit stop. He's going to lose a few places because of the bunched up grid, but he's coming in now, so Lasse re-inherits the race lead. Nathan coming into P2. Scott gets himself back up into P3, which is crucial. Now he's back into a good fighting strong position as Dizzy goes for the medium, so he's definitely committing to a 2-stop now. Can't go to the hards, or well, he didn't go to the hards, he went for the mediums instead, so he's definitely going for the 2-stop. So he's probably going to go medium, soft to the end of this race. Comes out in P8 and is going to need to catch the safety car queue, waiting for Kiza, Ethan and Miles, who all also pitted under the safety car lap 12 of 35. Still a long way to go. Anything can happen if we've had 3 safety cars and 2 VSCs already in this Grand Prix. Anything certainly can happen. Safety car getting very close to that caution curve there in turn 5. Very easy to, it's basically an instant spin curve. If you kiss it and you've got the wheel turning, you are going to spin. So yeah, Ben Mylander, a very good job not to bin the safety car. As we've seen time and time again in motorsport, the safety car, ironically, being a little bit unsafe and maybe even causing another safety car because it's binned itself in the wall. But yeah, probably around about 1 more lap under this safety car, and then we'll see ourselves back under green flag racing. Shouldn't at all be too long, which is a shame because we've had good racing and it's just killed the momentum, unfortunately. But safety car in this lap, that was a very, very late call from race control, so Lasse is going to take the reins for this restart. And when are we going to get back on the green flag racing? He's punched it now off the final corner, and it's a great restart from Lasse, who managed to catch Nathan off. The 2 Red Bulls now going side by side, and Brian with an absolutely incredible restart, now running side by side, maybe down towards turn 1. The Alpine of Swoosh looking up the inside. There goes Scott around the outside. The Alpine though getting an almighty switcheroo and trying to put the pressure on for P4. We've got Ethan, who's already been disqualified from this session. The Alpine now looking to put the pressure back on Brian. 2 by 2 they went in towards turn 1, but Scott just about managing to edge ahead of Brian and Swoosh and Dizzy Lizard, who's already up into P6. Very nice restart from him on those fresh medium tyres, but back at the front. Lasse comfortably leading the way ahead of Nathan and Scott in P3, with Brian with some decent pace in P4, Swoosh P5, Dizzy Lizard P6, Mr. P7, Rigby P8, with Gizzy and Miles rounding off the grid. But Ethan disqualified from this Grand Prix, and now with only 10 runners left. Ever crucial, but Scott putting that pressure on the Ferrari. Lasse literally has just checked out, has had an incredible restart, but oh my god, he's in the wall. The race leader's round and tapped the wall off the exit of turn 10, and now this is a fight for the race lead between Scott and Nathan. It's going from bad to worse for a lot of drivers in this race, as Scott gets a very good run off that corner, looks up the inside of the penultimate, and the Ferrari gives him room. What a really conventional pace to go side by side, but they're doing it anyway. It's going to be the inside for the Ferrari into the final corner, but Scott around the outside takes the race lead. after a crash from Lasset, sees him towards the back of the grid. Those old tyres must have been hurting a little bit, but the Ferrari might come back at him though, using his ERS, looking to the inside of turn 1. Is he going to lick it, stick it, send it? Yes, he is. Looks up the inside, but the AlphaTauri is going to go around the outside, but he gets a little bit swamped on the curb, so the Red Bull now invited Dizzy Lizard up into P4 as well, dropping Swoosh down to P5. But what a dramatic restart, and luckily we haven't got another safety car. I think Mars is round as well, so not a good day for the Alfa Romeos at all. So Lasset, really unfortunate for him. He's had the pace, but never ever say never. We've had 3 safety cars already, and 1 more can put him back into the mix. So do not give up. He's gone for the hard compound tyres, and he's going to the end, and he's got the pace. He just needs to keep it consistent. An unfortunate mistake. What was happening, I think, was he was just pushing so hard, get that gap open while he had the chance. While Scott was held up and battling the Ferrari, he could then open the gap and get himself ahead, because Scott's going to be very quick. So Nathan, not the quickest at the moment, still P2, but he's got the charging bull, seeing red in front of him, and he's going to be looking to go for that and get himself up into P2. Dizzy Lizard as well on a very good strategy, and with some very good pace in this race as well. Lap 14 of 35 then, as we approach the halfway mark. Scott setting the fastest lap, an 18.1 for the Scuderia AlphaTauri Honda. A very quick driver indeed, and he's proven his worth around the Hungary ring today. DRS will be enabled at the start of this lap, I believe. Yeah, it will be enabled at the start of this lap, so by the time we come round again, because there's only 1 DRS activation point, and that's going into the final corner, so realistically when DRS is enabled, it means you're not going to use it for another lap. But we had clear skies at the start of this race, guys. I'm thinking it's a little bit darker than when we started off. Could we see some rain towards the middle and final stages of this race? This could be something to be very interested about. And the only reason I in fact noticed it was because the halo was looking awfully weird on that Red Bull, and as you come off you can see the clouds have towered over, and it's looking weird. Oh, that's a spin. Brian gets over the curb and he's into the wall, and it's his front wing gone. And luckily for him, he hasn't lost his front wheels or anything, so he can carry on. Gets in the way maybe of the McLaren of Rigby, who is going to find his way through, and he's going to be behind his teammate. So Dizzy Lizard promoted into the top 3. That's a shame for the Red Bull though, who's going to have to limp it home to the pit lane. Oh, and that's his teammate gone round as well, so missed it into the wall. That's going to be a double stacking pit stop for both Red Bull guys, which is a shame. So yeah, if you're doing anything that resembles a good job in this race, you are probably going to spin, because Lasset spun, Scott's had trouble, the 2 Red Bulls have had trouble. Swoosh has actually Swoosh hasn't been doing too bad, but Ethan was doing well, Paul was doing alright, Mad Nathan as well, and it's just gone from bad to worse for them in this race. But the closest battle we have on track is Lasset trying to get past Kizigiza on those fresh hard tyres. Does it very easily as he sets the fastest lap of the race on those hard compound tyres, 17.987, as Lasset is now inside the top 6 and looking to press on forwards. 24 seconds to the nearest car, but 1 safety car can change the entire thing. Going to be back into the top 5 after, well, a very good qualifying, a very good start, very good control of the race up until his spin a couple of laps ago. So yeah, it's a shame for Lasset, because he's been doing a remarkable job, but he's going to be pushing on again. Purple to the first sector and looking strong already. 6 seconds gained on Rigby, who might maybe have a little bit of damage. He doesn't actually have damage, but he's got old medium tyres, and he's going to be looking to come into the box very soon. I think Lasset is just sending it. He doesn't have anything to lose at this point now, so he's got half of the race left to go. Lap 17 of 35. Brian looking to get past Kizigiza on his charge back up the field. Kizigiza looking to just go backwards more than anything, but these fresh mediums on Brian after his spin through turn 10, literally the exact, pretty much a carbon copy of what Lasset did from the lead of the race. Cost him a podium position. He's going to be looking to get past Kizigiza. He's going to have the DRS. Swoosh Rider again looking to put the pressure on Dizzy Lizard. A little bit of contact between the two. Lasset goes fastest once again, but Brian uses DRS, gets a good exit, uses a little bit of energy, and sails his way past and up into P7. The Alpine of Swoosh though on these hard compound tyres, looking to chase after Dizzy Lizard, who again had a very good British Grand Prix last time out. So did Swoosh, and they're going to be looking to go at it on track once again. 3 seconds the gap at the front. Scott absolutely flying doing an incredible job for the AlphaTauri bunch up in front. But Swoosh just about managing to get his way within the 1 second range, and of course the 1 second dictating whether or not you get the aid of DRS, the drag reduction system, the rear wing flap opening, as you'll see in just a few moments time, to decrease drag, hence the name drag reduction. It gives you an extra around about 15 to 20 kilometers an hour down this straight. The ERS giving you around about 160 brake horsepower extra from the MG UK. Little component in the engine that recharges as you brake and deploys as you put the loud pedal down, and as you push the overtake button, that's an extra 160 brake horsepower or so, boosting these cars well over 1,000 horsepower now. That's all going to the rear wheels. In fact, Lasse up into P5 as Rigby has to pull his way into the pit lane for his first stop of this race, going for a 2-stop and going for softs towards the end. Swoosh Rider though closing on Dizzy, and there's going to be a nice little fight, nice little tussle for the podium places, and could even be one position more as Nathan has gone for a little bit of a spin off the exit of turn 7. Maybe got himself over the curve, so it's now going to be a 3-horse battle. The Prancing Horse, the Aston Martin and the Alpine, the Italian, British and French going at it in Hungary. Nathan should in theory be slower on those 13-lap old medium tyres. Is he going to pull his way into the pit lane? No, he's not. This could hinder Swoosh's progress because Dizzy Lizard is going to get the aid of DRS to help defend himself with, but not with exits like that. That's not going to help him at all. Swoosh using a little bit of ERS, can't quite close the gap though to Nathan in front, and Swoosh not being able to close the gap to Dizzy Lizard either. So holding station for the time being. A spin of Rigby on his outlap through turn 10 as well, which is a shame. Or turn 11 in fact, I've been calling it turn 10, it's in fact turn 11. As we go up the hill, yellow flags through sector 3, not going to be a full course yellow on this particular occasion, but very much well could have been. With the amount of debris we've seen on the track, the marshals being able to clear it up though. Dizzy Lizard though putting the pressure on Nathan, who's now 5.5 seconds clear away from Scott. Scott is 5.5 seconds clear, you could say, and Nathan is 5.5 seconds adrift from the AlphaTauri, who's been so consistent and very quick, bar any bad luck he's had off the safety car restart. Doing an incredible job in controlling this race really, really well. How long can he take those mediums? And he definitely has the choice to go to mediums again or stretch them out and go softs. Staying out for one more lap though, yeah, at the very least. Dizzy Lizard though looking to put that pressure on the Ferrari, but the Alpine is lurking. He's got to be careful. That's the thing, being the second car in the train. You have to look forward, but you've also got to keep one eye open on the car behind. You want to attack, but you don't want to lose the position behind either. So this fight for the podium raging on once more. Second, third and fourth going at it. So for the remainder 16 laps or so we have left around the Hungary ring. It's going to be a straight fight between these three, all on differing strategies though. I think they all have to pit again, but I'm not entirely sure. There's back now with the action. Nathan losing, or actually gapping Dizzy Lizard by quite a little bit through that middle sector. 8 cents still the gap, and they are all still well within DRS range of each other. So Nathan doing a great job on those old tyres, those old degrading tyres, to keep them at bay. But that's the thing, that Dizzy Lizard getting that swash of dirty air really not helping his advance one bit. You can gain, and as Murray Walker once said, catching is one thing, getting past is another, and to add to that, getting away is also another thing. Especially at tracks such as Monza, you can get ahead, but they're going to stick right in the toe and try and come back at you. It's very easy to do. Tracks like the Hungary ring though, should be pretty easy to really gap the guy you've got in front, provided you did genuinely have a clear advantage. Probably need around about 1 second advantage to clearly get in front and stay in front. 7-8 tenths maybe acceptable, but 6 tenths maybe about 5 turns probably is the cut-off point to say that, yeah, they're probably going to stay with you into the DRS zone and latch onto your toe. It all depends on how much you can gain down the straight. None of which are able to save enough ERS to, in fact, launch an attack, but Scott's just having such a clean race up in front. Really cannot fault his drive one bit. The other closest battle on track is between the Red Bull of Mister and the McLaren of Rigby. 4 tenths is the gap between them, but as is usually the case, you just can't get close enough to launch the attack. So DRS and ERS activated for Swoosh. You just can't get close enough, but the Aston Martin getting very close. Even had a little look in towards turn 1 now, putting the pressure on the Ferrari. He's going to be eyeing up that P2 very, very nicely. But don't forget, Nathan, he's nursing these tyres until his pit window. So the Aston now getting very, very close. And once you're really close, once you've gotten that foothold, you often stay in it. And now 3 tenths is the gap. Once these two start fighting, Swoosh is going to be brought right into this, and it could really turn into the 3-car battle that we've been hoping for. Miles has retired from the session, not yet declared a full course yellow or a safety car just yet, but he's had a spin out of turn 7, a very easy mistake to do, one we've seen a lot of drivers in fact do, as Nathan gets a little bit of a twitch through turn 8 as they go into turn 9, 10 and then 11. It's the corner where we've seen a lot of people have a bit of a twitch. Nathan being one of them through there, clipping the curb a little bit, with Rigby and Mister closing up onto Kiza. And Mercedes the fight for P number 7. I think Rigby's going to find his way through very soon, but the front 2, 3 and 4 going to be very, very close coming onto this back straight. We'll have a look as Nathan pulls himself into the pit lane. And he's going for that undercut maybe on Scott. Could gain a little bit out of it. The Red Bull looking up the inside of Rigby. This is a nice little battle going on. Kiza being a little bit of a mobile chicane. Is the Alpine going to go for much in towards turn 1 or 2? Now Dizzy lacks that extra help, or will lack that extra help of DRS from the car in front on the next lap. So he's going to be a little bit vulnerable from Swoosh, who's had to sit behind idly and wait. Rigby though still unable to find a way through on a car he's clearly faster than. Can he go for it in towards turn 12? He's going to be having to send it from quite far back. The Red Bull, you can see the closing speed under brakes just broke that much later. Rigby getting a good run off. He's going to look to the right hand side. Can he sail it around? No, Kiza parking that car very nicely while he's not necessarily the quickest. The McLaren looking around the left hand side again, can't commit. We'll try and go underneath and get the switcheroo onto this pit straight. Does in fact do so. The Red Bull getting a nice front row seat to all of it. Kiza trying to hang on, but Mister put into the right hand side, and this is a crucial move if he wants to put pressure on nearly up the inside of the McLaren, but gets ahead and stays ahead of the Mercedes. Is now going to be looking to set his sights back forward on Rigby, get himself into that P7. Now a fight between Swoosh and Dizzy Lizard. As Lasse is retired, a similar spin to what cost him the race lead has now cost him points in as a whole. You can guess a carbon copy mistake literally is the same wall that he crashed into under the previous safety car, now down to only 9 runners in this race, which is a shame. Or in fact, no, it's only 8 runners now, isn't it? So we've lost half of our field, 2 DNFs with 12 laps left of this race remaining. No full course yellow. I think we've must have used up all of the safety cars of this race. If that was a thing, we definitely would have. Nathan though onto the softs and to the end of this race. 16 seconds back on these guys and is gaining very, very quickly on Scott. Let's have a look at the interval to the leader. 25 seconds he's got. So we'll come out around maybe about 2 or 3 seconds behind. I'm not sure on the average pit loss around the Hungaroring. Mister though looking very close to Rigby. That's the defend to the right hand side. Mister looking to the inside, commits to the left hand side though. You can see a little bit of a twitch on the steering wheel. The McLaren goes in deep. The Red Bull can't quite get the traction to go underneath him, goes off the track as well, and doesn't have the aid of DRS until halfway down the straight. So the McLaren making it as very wide as possible. This is now the fight for P6 following Lasse's retirement. A driver who looked very good for a contention for the race win early on, but mistakes and the lack of safety cars really not being his friend after the halfway point. DRS open for the Alpine, who's still looking to get past, but again can't get the drive off. Nathan goes quickest, a 16.6 on those soft compound tyres and is gaining very, very quickly on the guys in front, and is in fact gaining on Scott, who really isn't actually he really isn't losing that much time to Nathan, despite the clear tyre advantage. Should be around about at least a second a lap on those softs to those mediums, but Scott's done an incredible job. 20 laps he's been on those mediums for. He's going to make sure he's got the security to go to the end on the soft compound tyres that he does eventually choose to go on to. His tyre management still is doing very well, but I'm pretty sure Swoosh is to the end, and I'm pretty sure Dizzy Lizard also could be to the end. But if he was to pit, he'd have to pit with Swoosh, I think. No, if he was to pit, he'd have to pit now, or around about that, and go to maybe another set of mediums, because softs, I don't think, actually softs will get to the end. In fact, I stand corrected. The Alpine closing very, very rapidly. Yellow flags again through sector 2. That's Mr. Out of this race, pushing a little bit too hard, trying to get past the McLaren of Rigby. Has the McLaren suffered any damage? Let's have a look at the front wing. Nope. No visible damage at the very least. He's kept the dashboard, he's got the rear wing. No sideboard damage either, so I think it was more of a mistake on Mr's part. Down to just 7 runners now. And a safety car right now would really spice things up, with the closest battle on track between the Alpine of Swoosh and the Aston Martin of Dizzy Lizard. The battle that's been raging on for laps upon laps here at the Hungary. What has been a very, very good start to the race sort of died down towards the mid and where we are now, with retirements and no safety cars and just people bottling it in all honesty. But it happens. It's a very tricky circuit. Scott being very dominant at the front as well. So what we have to feast our eyes upon is the battle for second between Swoosh and Dizzy, as Scott comes into the pit lane. What tyres is he going to be strapping onto? Comes into the pit lane, gets it stopped. The 50-mile-an-hour speed limit here at the Hungary. But Swoosh trying to get close through the final corner. He needs that good run with DRS. What tyres is Scott going to go on to? He's going to be on an absolute charge. Is Nathan going to get past? No, Nathan's miles off. Absolutely miles off. Might come out maybe 6 seconds behind, something like that. Maybe even gains time has Scott. No, he's visibly lost time. But yeah, Nathan not being able to gain as much as they've hoped under on those fresh softs. And now Scott is going to be looking forward. This now a fight for the race lead. Provisionally, we don't know if Dizzy's pitting. We don't know if Swoosh is pitting, but Scott is going to be on an absolute charge now on those soft compound tyres. Absolutely flying. Going to be looking to do some magical things. Already gained nearly a second on the guys in front already, as Rigby I think goes for a little bit of a spin through 10-11. Does in fact though do so. It's been a very lethal corner for a lot of people. And let's have a lot of corners. Turn 4, 5, the exit of 7. Oh, very wide from Scott. Yeah, nearly smacking into the wall, but goes powerful to the middle sector. And has already gained now that gap 6 seconds between him and the 2 race leaders. But a lot of that pace has been attributed to his cheeky line through turn 11, but a very valid line. If the game allows it, you're going to find that extra pace. We're all racing drivers, we want that extra pace. The Alpine still putting the pressure on Dizzy Lizard. This has been the closest he's been all race long. Pulls to the left hand side. How late can he brake? That's very late. He's going to keep the foot in around the outside. The Aston Martin going to give him a squeeze. He's off the track, stays behind unfortunately, but he's going to have the run maybe towards turn 2, looking to the inside. But it's been a valiant effort from the Alpine on this this lap. It's been the closest he's been, and he knew that he had to try it. He had to do his best to edge himself in front of Dizzy Lizard, but it was all in vain in the end. But a very, very good effort with Wayne going purple to the first sector, now 7 tenths up on his PB, and this is looking like a very, very clear cut purple lap if he can hook it up. Now the gap only 4 seconds. He's gained pretty much 4 seconds a lap. Swoosh Rider though, a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. He's now going to need to hope that he can stay with Dizzy Lizard, and when he pits, stay out. I think that Swoosh has got nothing to lose at this point. It's either settle in for P3 or 4 at the best if he comes in. Yeah, it's going to be P4 if he pits, or just go to the end and risk a puncture. I think in Swoosh's situation, I think he should just go to the end. Dizzy Lizard pulling into the pit lane for his final stop. So Swoosh, just gamble. There's only 7 laps left of this race. Just gamble, take those tyres to the end, as Wayne goes quickest at 15.999, on the brink of a 15. In fact, used up all of his ERS in doing so. That's going to make it tricky to get past Swoosh, but definitely possible. I think that Swoosh is looking good for this race, for a P2 maybe. With Dizzy Lizard though pulling out onto the softs, is going to be very quick. 10 seconds back on Nathan, who gets himself back onto the podium because of this pit stop. But 12 seconds is a lot to ask in 7 laps. That's going to be, well, 12 seconds in 7 laps. That's around about 2 seconds a lap, just under 2 seconds a lap. So it's going to be a tough one. Now the gap between the two race leaders. Scott has just been absolutely flying all race long. Hasn't put a foot wrong apart from that second safety car restart, but even then that could have been argued. I didn't see it, so it might not have even been his fault. He's fought back through and has been absolutely stellar all race long. Putting that pressure on Swoosh as we've got another spin from Rigby through turn 9, going into turn 10. He's retired from the session. Could this be a safety car? Very much well could be. Now only 6 drivers left in this race after a lot of them have retired, which is a shame that we can't have more drivers finishing this race, but it'll always happen. Scott putting that pressure on. Still yellow flags for 2 and 3. Will it be a safety car? Rigby carrying on. Swoosh low on ERS. Same with Scott. Up the hill through turn 4. Just can't pick his way through. He's going to need to be very selective with how he does it. Rigby now has finally DNF'd from the session. Did look for a moment like he was carrying on, but hadn't done so. So the 2 at the front, with Dizzy Lizard in fact actually closing on Nathan, but probably not by enough, with just under 5 laps left of this race. 2 go. Scott waiting for that DRS straight. Swoosh with nothing to lose now though, and Scott's tyres are going to start to die off. Gives him a bit of a tap through the penultimate corner, a little bit of a love tap just to say, you know, I'm here. Luckily no damage done to the front wing of that AlphaTauri as they now come into this pit straight. Scott looking to eye up that move for the race. He doesn't want to use any more ERS than he needs to. The Alpine is just going to let him have it, not going to fight it at all. Down the inside goes the AlphaTauri, a Swoosh rider having to settle in for P2, but I don't think he's interested in the race lead. He's got a penalty and he's now just focusing on staying ahead of Swoosh, of Nathan, and making sure that he can secure P2 in a bit of a masterclass strategy really, to stretch his tyres for nearly what will be sort of 27 laps or so. So they're going to be absolutely dead, but he's driving absolutely stellarly on those tyres, considering he was in dirty air for quite a while in this race. So he's done an incredible job all the way through. As of a lot of these drivers, Scott just been flawless, picked his way through, controlled the race, being consistent. Swoosh, as I've just said. Nathan, good qualifying in that Ferrari, now looking good for a podium if he can hook it up. Those softs are going to really die off towards the end of the stint though. Dizzy Lizard done a great job stretching those mediums out as well. Brian, good restart, had the potential in this race, and Giza has managed to just be where he is. He's not been the quickest by any means, but he's been consistent and he's been there. Those clouds not really doing much as I'd have thought. I thought we might have had a little bit of rain to spice this race up, and those final couple of laps could be very crucial if it does in fact rain, but it doesn't look likely, and as will be luck in Formula 1, it will very much rain just after the race is finished, and we'll see it in the loading screen. It'll be absolutely chucking it down a rain in the on the podium, and it won't have done that in the race at all. Now with around about 3.5 laps of this race remaining, Scott leads from Swoosh, Nathan P3 with Dizzy P4, Brian 5th, and Giza rounding off the so far the only people that are going to finish. That's an uncharacteristic mistake from Scott. Gets a little bit shaky through in towards turn 11. Look in the background, that menacing Ferrari trying to come back at the Alpine, but Those soft compound tyres are very much dying. You can see Dizzy Lizard, in fact, gaining by quite a bit. It's going to be a tough ask if Dizzy Lizard wants to get himself on the podium, but it's possible. A couple of mistakes from Nathan can definitely see that happen. Now through the final corner, does an 18.8 at 2.2 seconds down on his fastest time. So, yeah, really losing out because of it. And, could probably do with some fresh tyres, but doesn't want to pit and lose that podium place. So lap 33 of 35, 3 laps left of this race as Swoosh manages to lap the Mercedes, I believe, of Giza, and does so very cleanly. So what has been a very eventful first half of the race really did die down towards the end, with people crashing out and not having that battle that we so hopefully deserved, but cannot knock people down for it. Mistakes happen. Bloody spun. As I was talking to Jeff and wasn't paying attention, a very easy mistake to do, in fact. But yeah, just wait for the straight. It's ironic, you're going the fastest you'll ever be on the track, but it's where you've got the time to have a bit of a breather and talk to Jeff. But yeah, that's a shame. It's a very unfortunate way to end the race. Across the line to start the penultimate lap does Scott, who now his tyres are going to start to feel a little bit of a hit. And as you can see, 1.5 seconds slower than his PB on that lap, but he's keeping it consistent, keeping it tidy, not making any mistakes. Is that a bit of rain? It is indeed a little bit of rain on the halo of the AlphaTauri. This could spice things up if people get a little bit slow or a little bit caught up. Maybe some mistakes could spice things up from Scott or from Swoosh or whatever, because that track is going to be getting greasy very quickly for the final 2 laps of this race. And while it's not really going to play a massive factor, those hard tyres are going to be looking very much colder than the softs, and that could play a big factor. But Swoosh needs to master these wet conditions. He's got a chance here. This has been spiced up quite a bit, and if Scott does not look too good in the wet, Swoosh could find himself grabbing some extra points here. Dizzy Lizard as well on those fresher tyres to Nathan in front could maybe get himself on the podium if he can really master these conditions. Of course, only about 1.5 laps left, so it's not going to be too optimal for them in terms of maximising the rain, but it can certainly spice things up. So we'll have to wait and see how bad the rain gets as we now come on to the final lap, headed by Scott. 8 seconds back is Swoosh, further 8 seconds back is Nathan, and Dizzy Lizard on an absolute charge now. 4.8 seconds from the 12 seconds it was at the start of his stint. He's been on an absolute masterclass of a drive to try and catch up and get himself back into P3, but it's going to be a tough ask. It's going to be a very big ask, but mistakes in the rain can happen at the Hungaroring. And some late drama while the cars are quite spread out to actually do much. Nathan can very easily make a mistake, and his soft tyres on 11 laps old, they're going to be very much screaming for help, and mistakes can be common. Just look at the graining, the visible graining on those tyres. Look at the inside compared to the outside. So those tyres very old. And Dizzy Lizard already a second in the first sector. Could be very close between these two. I think he's going to run out of time as the Aston Martin, but he's pushing for it. He's going to give it his all. He's gaining. Let's see if Nathan can make any mistakes. He's going to be limping at home, trying to hang on. But through the final couple of corners, that's a spin. Is that Swoosh? No, it's not. It's Giza. But through the final corner, Scott, from pole to flag, takes the win of round number 2, the Hungarian Grand Prix. Swoosh, after a very good strategy, very consistent, keep those tyres alive, across the line, finishes second. Dizzy Lizard put the pursuit on, but through the final corner, Nathan has held on brilliantly, taking those tyres 11 laps to finish on the podium here in Hungary, with Dizzy Lizard just behind in P4, but a penalty for Nathan sees Dizzy take P3 at the death of it. And I wasn't actually sure if Nathan had a penalty. It didn't show up on the screen. However, a very good result from the both of them as they crossed the line. Brian and Kiza finished the race in P6, but now P5 Nathan is going to be very happy with that. In P4 could have been a podium had it not been for the penalty, but you took those tyres to the end. Brian now across the line in P5. I'm not sure. But you were P3 and then it knocked you down to P4 on my screen. Whether it's different on yours, Dizzy Lizard takes driver of the day from just ahead of us. I think it was P11, wasn't it, for Drizzy? But nonetheless, 35 laps of racing done and dusted. Let's see if it's a Ferrari or an Aston Martin on the podium. It's an Aston Martin on the podium. So I'm not sure. I am not sure at all why that's happened. The game just, you were ahead going into it, and it's still not registering a penalty at all. So I think you've been robbed of a podium here, Nathan. I think that's provisional results. You might have to take it up with the stewards, but it is Scott that takes the win of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Swoosh, after a great drive, finishes P2 with Dizzy. A provisional P3. It's probably going to be under investigation between these two. There was no in-game penalty for Nathan, with Brian in P5 and Kiza finishing the race in P6. And consistency is key. There are a good chunk of points despite him being quite a few seconds off the pace. Rugby in P7 with Mr. P8, Lasse P9, Miles P10, Ethan P11, Wayne in P12, Torsif P13, Paston 14th, Paul in P15th, Lewis 16th, Nathan rounding off the grid, the first retiree in 17th. Very strange. Swoosh had a penalty. Indeed had a penalty, yeah. I'm not sure why it gave it to you. I mean, you were ahead, and this is proof that the game doesn't register you to have a penalty. So, I would, Nathan, I would celebrate a podium because you hanged on brilliantly for that one. This is strange. This is a different result. Yeah, I would say that Nathan definitely deserves the podium. He was ahead, and Dizzy tried his best to catch up. Could have very much got on the podium, but a little bit behind. So I think we should take it up to the stewards because Nathan probably is robbed of a penalty there. And if you can prove you didn't get a penalty on your screen, it doesn't say on mine, but you still drop behind. So I'm not sure. However, nonetheless, it's been an absolute pleasure. This has been round number 2, the Hungarian Grand Prix for the UFR Championship. Scott took the win ahead of Swoosh, and a provisional P3 still to be decided between Nathan and Dizzy Lizard. But other than that, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll see you next week for round number 3. But until then, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've been Zach Sweeney, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.